Hey guys, we are coming at you live with another Facebook Live from our Community Development Department. I was just joking with our people here that we didn't have time for hair and makeup this morning, so don't adjust your screens there. This is exactly how we look, so I'm sorry. But I'm super excited today to be joined by James Sorensen, who's our Director of Community Development here with the city. So before I give him a little opportunity to introduce himself and his department, I thought we'd just take care of a couple housekeeping items. So number one, wanted to thank everybody for a great balloon festival, and James's group participated heavily in that with permits and licensing and all kinds of fun stuff. So we had just hundreds of people participate in the 5K. We had so many people come out for the launch. We did unfortunately miss one day of launch because of the weather, but overall it was just a huge success. And then also just wanted to thank everybody who participated in Run Elevated. So that's our half marathon. It took place just a couple weekends ago, and again we had the most participation we've ever had, so it continues to grow every year. I think they said 22 states were represented this year. So, and again, thanks to James, his group does a lot with that. So, and thank you to everybody who participated. So, we've got a number of fun events in September too. So we'll continue to post a link to the calendar items so you can follow along everything. But yeah, lots happening. So, and that's a great segue into James's group, because pretty much everything we do around here touches on community development in one way or the other. So.
Yeah.
Let me turn a few minutes over to James to just introduce himself and his department and what they do.
Great. I'd like to just thank the mayor for this opportunity. We do have a great department and a great city that we work in. I have, as the mayor mentioned, my name is James Sorensen. I have worked for the city for 25 years. The last 2.5 years, I have been the director of the Community Development Department. And our department is a department made up of several different areas and several things that we do. And I'll start first just quickly letting you know that we roughly always have between 25 to 27 employees that fully staffed in our department. We are in charge of planning and zoning. That includes master planning, home building, placement, subdivisions, and so forth. We also have business licensing in the department. Anytime you may be associated with a home occupation or a commercial business, you'll work with someone in our department to get that license, and they'll help you understand what you need to do to run a business in Sandy. As well, we have special events that the mayor touched on. We help with those in permitting any type of 5K or any type of running, any type of event that people do in the city will come through and get a special event permit. A couple other things that our department does is that are major is that we have building and safety, and we have 5 building inspectors who are out daily inspecting all the new construction buildings and commercial, residential, maybe your water heaters, your roofs, and so forth. And also code enforcement. We have 4 code enforcement officers that are also out daily responding to code enforcement issues that you may have or that they actually see on the street or something, to try to keep our community looking nice. That pretty much wraps up what we do as the community development department.
Yeah, and I mean that's a huge understatement, because what James's group does is phenomenal. I mean, you think about 4 code enforcement officers, we have more than 29,000 households in Sandy, and we have 4 code enforcement officers. So, I mean, they just do a fabulous job, and really kudos to you guys for taking care of our city.
Thank you.
Obviously, development is a huge buzzword and the topic on everybody's minds, and James's group does a tremendous job just making sure everything's appropriately planned well for a city and executed correctly. So I had a chance to go around, in fact, with a couple of our building inspectors about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and I was just, they were inspecting one of our new office buildings over here, and it's a 300,000 square foot building, and they have to review all the studs in the wall and all the outlet placements, and I mean everything, elevator shafts. It's crazy. the amount of detail that they put into their job. So anyway, just can't thank you guys enough for what you do. So okay, so with that, let's jump into some of your questions. How's our live audience looking, Kel?
We don't have any questions yet, but we've got like 13 people watching currently.
Hey, good. Yeah. Well, okay. If you're out there and you want to ask a question or say hi, feel free to. So we all, as always, have gotten a number of questions that have come in sort of overnight or during the week. So we'll just go ahead and start with those. I'll address the first one. There were a number of comments, and let me just say at the outset, development is obviously something that, like I mentioned, is on everybody's minds. It's a very personal issue to everyone because we care deeply. Everybody cares about their neighborhood and where they've decided to make their home and live. So there's a number of comments on here about one particular neighborhood that there's been quite a bit of activity and emotion with over the past many years, and I know James knows a lot about that. But I'm not going to get into the specific details of this neighborhood. Those that live there and have been involved know that over the last couple of years since I've been here, we've had a number of meetings with people on all sides of the issues there, and we want and are willing to be as helpful as we can in facilitating those discussions. But we're not going to get into all the issues that were addressed here for this one specific neighborhood in this forum. It's just not appropriate and a good use of everybody's time here today. So we will continue to work with the neighborhood like we always have, but we're not going to get into these today. So we'll leave that at that. Okay. But I did want to get into something that actually was brought up by Brooke DeSosa in her comment about this neighborhood, because it does touch on code enforcement generally that you guys do throughout the city. And so let me go ahead and read. First of all, she gives you guys a great shout out. She says, James is incredibly knowledgeable and skilled in his work for Sandy City. I'm grateful we have him. Me too, Brooke. She said she's a candidate for city council. As I've been out knocking on doors and talking to residents in District 4, code enforcement has come up time and time again as an issue people feel passionately about. Having talked to residents in and around Bell Canyon, it seems as though the city's lack of enforcing its codes, such as horse boarding and illegal or unlicensed businesses, is diminishing the quality of our neighborhoods and exacerbating the growing contention between neighbors. And she goes on to mention it's not just Bell Canyon, but she's hearing this around the district. And so I thought I'd give James just a minute to talk about sort of how they do code enforcement, kind of priorities you have.
First of all, I did want to address the boarding of animals and so forth, because we do have a lot of properties in Sandy City that are horse properties, very important, critical properties in the city, and they do have certain rules that other people or other residents in the city do not have. For instance, Bell Canyon Acres created their own zone, basically a tailored zone for their subdivision, I think in 2009. And it does have a horse boarding provision, and horse boarding is not allowed in that area. You're allowed to have your horses and no one else's horses. And your horses, that came up as well, is based on the square footage of each of the properties within those horse areas. And you have to basically have a set-aside area of 10,000 square feet. That allows you to have your 4 horses. Anything over that requires you to come in for a special use permit with the city to get something past 4 horses, and that was created by the Bell Canyon community when they went through and created an ordinance for their area. As far as how we regulate boarding of horses, we do take that serious. When we get a complaint for it, we investigate every complaint. From a citizen who brings it in, we'll send a code enforcement officer out. They'll talk to the owner of that and verify whether he has those home horses or not on site. And we take the word of that homeowner. If he doesn't have over the 4 horses, there's not much that we can do. He's complying. So we do take him serious, and we do investigate every issue that comes up on horse boarding, and we send someone out to look at it as far as that goes.
Okay. And I know in terms of kind of I think how Brooke termed it was sort of the, I wouldn't say it's selective enforcement, but it's just by nature, what we're trying to do is be as citizen-centric as we can, and ultimately we want the best outcome for the neighborhood. And so sometimes that's working with a homeowner to bring them into compliance. It's not as easy as just slapping a fine on them and then everything's going to go away. That seems like an easy solution, but I think your guys, as I've talked to them, would attest to, it's never that easy as just slapping a fine on someone's property and then all of a sudden everybody's in compliance and all the neighbors are happy and everything goes away. So really, our code enforcement officers, it's a much more involved process in terms of bringing people into compliance. So it's more difficult than it seems on the surface.
We have a much greater success working with someone in a friendly way that way, and having them not be repeat offenders again, because they understand it. We've worked with them. They develop a relationship with our code guys.
We help them buy into the process and what we're trying to do. So, okay, great, thank you. Hopefully that answers the question, Brooke. Okay, there's a question from Peter Muscarello. Said, I'm so happy you're answering questions this way. I'll have a few more for Jim on Friday. But my first question is about broadband internet accessibility. In historic Sandy, we have Comcast or nothing. What's the plan to get competition from internet providers? Thanks to both of you. So Peter, it's great to hear from you again. So I think we've addressed this question a couple of times, but just to reiterate, we do have a great fact brief that we put together in conjunction with some of our public utilities, our city attorney's office, that addresses this broadband accessibility issue. But the gist of it is, as a city, we didn't decide to sign on with the Utopia investment about 15 years ago that many municipalities did in Sandy. And that was probably now a good thing because it is significantly, it's incredibly expensive to put all of that hard asset fiber in the ground. And really, the world is changing so quickly, it's moving to more wireless connectivity.
5G.
Right. Yeah. And the 5th generation cell towers. So, and James's group has a lot to do with that. But you'll see more and more movement toward cellular and data and less kind of hard internet in the ground, fiber optic cable, that kind of thing. So we as a city aren't making investments into any fiber optic in the ground, but you'll see a ton of competition, and James's group is seeing it already with lots of telecom providers wanting to come in with their 5G cell towers. So anyway, so that will increase speeds, much more access and coverage. It's a good thing, and it's in this fact brief you'll be able to see the difference in download speeds and how much faster 5G is going to be than fiber. And so it is the way the world's moving, and so we just want to try to be competitive with it. Let's see, maybe we'll jump down to this one. Jim Rutherford asked a specific question. Is it against code for people to live in a contractor's trailer with no running water or toilets? It's also parked on dirt. That's like 3 strikes and you're out.
That is definitely against code, and that would be one that you would want to call in and let us know where that might be happening, and we would definitely try to help take care of that situation.
And this might be a good time to plug our CityServe app. So James's group is embedded with the CityServe app, as all of our departments are. But if you see a code violation or something you think is somewhat suspect, you can always take a picture of it in the CityServe app and submit that to James's group in community development. So anyway, or you're welcome to still call. But for those of you that have your CityServe app up and running, it's super easy. Okay, Tamara Woolley asked, with so many new housing developments in Sandy, how well are we adhering to fair housing laws? So Tamara, that's a great question. I think, and feel free to jump in, James, but for the most part, the city doesn't investigate complaints of housing discrimination. Obviously, we do our best to abide by. We're subject to the Fair Housing Act, which prohibits any type of discrimination based on those protected classes when it comes to housing. But if you feel like you've been discriminated against either by a lender or by a landlord or whatever it may be, there is the Utah Anti-Discrimination and Labor Division, the UALD, handles those complaints on behalf of HUD. So we can provide the link to that website if you feel like you've been discriminated against. That's the place to go. and they'll investigate that and let you know. But as far as I know, I mean, we do everything we can to try to make sure landlords and tenants and everybody is abiding by.
Fulfill their responsibilities. Right. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. There's another specific question about a property. But Eric Miller asked, why are these commercial stores, he gives an example like 7-Eleven, still allowed to take deliveries from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. in a residential area? He asks what he needs to do to get that to stop. So.
Yeah. Basically, the city ordinance for commercial developments basically run from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And that particular ordinance is if you're within 250 feet of a residential district. So if what you're seeing is from a commercial development that's close to a neighborhood or within you think is 250 feet, they shouldn't have any deliveries outside of the hours of 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Through the rest of the city where you're not close to that, or 24 hours operations where you're not close to a residential neighborhood, that restriction does not apply. But close to residential neighborhoods it does, and they would definitely be required to comply with that restriction, so they are not. It's put in place to protect residents from garbage delivery and different things through those type of hours.
Yeah. So again, if you're seeing that consistently, please let us know. We'll for sure go out and look at that. Okay. Let's see. There's another question overnight from Brad McDougall. He asked, I know as business owners we have to follow certain rules with signage, like banners and now open signs. Do these same rules apply to apartment complexes? Is it in the city residents' best interest to have 35 now leasing signs and flags at one complex lining the streets? So that is a great question. I know I've seen that from time to time. I'll let James address that.
When you're looking at the apartment buildings, our sign regulations are different from commercial ones. However, they are fairly strict still, that we do have regulations that apartment buildings or any other type of multifamily complex to advertise and so forth has to follow, and generally that's 2 banner signs, which are roughly 32 square feet, and they have what they call the pennant signs, and they're allowed so many of those. From time to time on weekends they might put out many of those, and if that's happening, I can definitely have someone go talk to them and have them comply with the other ones, because it is something that we look at, and we do not want them to really get out of control. But they definitely are regulated like anyone.
Yeah, and I've seen those sometimes on Saturday that they will litter kind of the parking strips with
for an opening or something like that.
Yeah, and it does. It's pretty distracting and looks cluttered. But, so yeah, we're happy to go out and look at those as well as you see them. So. And Monica Zoltansky just gave us a nice shout out about CityServe and the app and using it for quick fixes. So anyway, so thank you, Monica. And again, just we're trying to increase our usage of the app, so we made a good investment in that, and it's a great tool. So if you're not using it, please check it out. And it's an easy way to submit your suggestions and complaints. Okay, I think how are we doing live?
We actually don't have any questions yet.
Okay.
So.
Well, they let you off easy.
Yeah.
And as always, we'll post the video to go back and watch later, and we continue to monitor the comments. So if you have an additional one, feel free to ask it there, or you can always email me. It's just mayor@sandy.utah.gov, and if any questions come in, that I'll refer those to James, and we can get back to you individually. So anyway, as always, thank you, James, for being here. Thank you for everything you guys do, and on behalf of James, thank you to you guys for letting us serve you, and it's a true pleasure and honor. If there's anything we can do better to help you out, please let us know. So, okay.
Thank you.
Have a great day.